This is Chaos Walking. Chaos Walking is a new film from Doug Liman. It stars Tom Hollandaise in and Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen, David Oyelowo, Nick Jonas, and a whole myriad of other people. And I found this movie thoroughly unlikable. I did not enjoy hardly anything about this, and it is one of the most shocking movies of the year. To start, we'll talk about some things I enjoyed, which is very little, to be clear. I like the look of the movie, and I like the cast. I think the movie actually looks really good for the most part. There is a lot of stunning locations, there's some decent cinematography, and I think the cast does their best with this material. Daisy Ridley, she doesn't have to do a whole lot for like half the movie, and Tom Hollandaise tries to sell this character, whatever he is, and he does an adequate job of that. And Mads Mikkelsen is a good villain. There's some good performances here that I really enjoyed, and David Oyelowo kind of ratchets his performance up to 11 as the bad guy, another bad guy, and I liked him in it. The cast, the look, the direction, I guess, and the visual effects. So mostly the technical stuff is pretty good. And that's about it.
Whoa, whoa, stop! Don't come any closer. It's a girl. Girl! Oh my gosh, girl.
The rest of this movie, almost from the first scene, was unlikable. The premise is essentially about Tom Hollandaise living in a colony of only men, and they are told that there is no women on the earth because these native creatures, these aliens, killed them all. And then a woman shows up, Daisy Ridley. And of course, it's Daisy Ridley, and you know, Daisy Ridley is herself, so he immediately falls for her and wants to protect her. And he is tasked with taking her somewhere where she can contact her ship, because her ship is like a transport bringing people to this new world, which they literally just called New World. Very uncreative of them to call their new planet New World, not something cool, but whatever. They come from Earth to colonize this new world. Daisy Ridley's a part of it, and she crash lands with a small crew, and she's the only survivor. So they go somewhere to contact the ship. That's the story. And that's all the story is. In fact, that's all the story becomes as well. This is one of those rare movies where nothing goes anywhere. There is no structure, barely anything of interest or consequence happens, and then it ends in the most anticlimactic non-ending of the year. I thoroughly dislike this movie. Almost everything about it, again, is unfortunately bad. Even the premise where these characters are only the men in this movie have their thoughts, you know, shown to the world. Everyone can see what everyone is thinking, but the girls, you can't see what they're thinking. There's not reasons for this. It's not explained at all. It's just, that's how it is, and that's okay. And it's barely ever used for anything other than plot convenience, which again I found very annoying. Multiple times throughout this movie, there was segments where Tom Hollandaise isn't thinking anything, and it's shown visually on the screen by these like weird glow around their head that shows that they're thinking something. There's multiple segments where that's not shown around him at all, but he's established throughout the movie as being someone who can't control his thoughts. And whenever someone is trying to talk to him and he has something that he's trying to hide, he just repeats his name over and over and over again, which got very tiring at a certain point. And yet, there are scenes when he's just not thinking anything, I guess. But then, there are other scenes when he's trying to keep a secret and he thinks it. And oh no, I have revealed this secret which I'm trying to hide. And that happens 3 or 4 times. Mads Mikkelsen is trying to find out where Daisy Ridley is, and Tom Hollandaise is trying to cloud his mind so that he doesn't find out. And then he just thinks about the barn where she's hiding, and he goes, oh, she's in the barn. Not to mention, this movie has no noticeable structure. Things just happen seemingly at random, and the editing is terrible. The editing does not help this at all. I mean, there is a point in the movie where Tom Hollandaise gets shot, and he's bleeding, and he looks like he's dying. And I said, oh, this is the low point. This is the third act low point. He's hurt. They're trying to regroup. And then 5 minutes later, the movie ended. It doesn't have an ending. It feels like it's setting up a sequel, but it doesn't even have a cliffhanger for the sequel to jump off of, which was shocking to me. It feels a lot like Alita Battle Angel, where things are just kind of happening and then it ends. But at least in that movie, there is a stinger. There's a tease at a greater villain kind of pulling the strings. In this one, it just ends. He gets shot, he wakes up in a bed, they say, oh, he's fine. And then he walks over and they see her ship has landed and is making a colony, and the movie is over. Nothing progresses in this movie. There's no character arcs. There's barely interesting characters in this, and they set up so much here that goes nowhere, which was the most disappointing part. I'm sure that a lot of this is setting up the second movie, but the movie is almost literally 2 hours of setup that absolutely goes nowhere. Again, they don't have character arcs. Daisy Ridley and Tom Hollandaise, their characters are flatlines through this whole movie. They're not interesting.
Happened to all the men on this planet. Every thought in our heads were on display.
There's no low points. There's no decisions he has to make. There is absolutely nothing. The bare minimum that this movie uses to tell him that he's a character is, where's Daisy Ridley? I need to protect Daisy Ridley. And that is it. That is his only character trait. He's in love with Daisy Ridley and he wants to protect her. And Daisy Ridley has even less of a character. She shows up, she wants to contact her ship. That is it. That is her whole motivation for being in this movie, is to contact her ship that she crash landed on. It is shockingly simple. It is shockingly sparse. There's hardly anything of note in this movie. It is, again, almost literally 2 hours of setup. They establish these aliens and they have a little colony. And I was like, okay, they're going to find out that the aliens aren't bad. The aliens are going to show them some secret that they didn't know. No, there's one scene with an alien, and then it is literally forgotten about. They absolutely go nowhere. Why even establish them? It makes no sense to me. They say that Mads Mikkelsen says that the aliens killed all the women and that they have to fight them off. And that is the only reason they're in the movie. But you could have just written it different.
There isn't even motivation for Mads Mikkelsen to be on the hunt for Tom Hollandaise and Daisy Ridley. They just are, for no good reason. There's no motivation behind it other than they want her, and they don't explain why. It's incredibly bizarre.
When the movie ended, I actually just, maybe too loudly, just said, "What? It's over?"
This movie feels like if Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring ended when Sam and Frodo got to Rivendell, and they are about to establish the Fellowship. That's how this feels.
Bring forth the ring, Frodo. So it is true.
Because it just feels like nothing happened. It feels like I sat in a theater for an hour and 50 minutes and just watched things move around on the screen. It has that little consequence to it. It has that little draw. There's just nothing to this. Again, I like the look of it. I like the Daisy Ridley and Tom Hollandaise in. I like the cast. But even some of the other technical elements were not great in here. The music is overbearingly terrible. Again, and the editing is so bad. There are parts in this movie where it'll just cut to something without establishing that something. There's a part when they're walking to this ranch and they meet someone on the ranch and they say, where are you from? And then it literally hard cuts to like a church with hundreds of other people around. And I have no idea where they went or what happened. And there's a lot of moments like that as well. They're running from someone, and then it hard cuts and it's over. Or Tom Hollandaise has a tray and he wants to feed the dog from the tray, and then it cuts and the tray's on the table and he's eating from it. Almost like you missed this movement. It is the most bizarre thing. And the music, every time it cuts to Mads Mikkelsen, it has this like low violin or drum hit or tuba. to make sure he's a bad guy. Literally every time it cut to him, it was like, wow. It's just overbearing and terrible, and it's incredibly bland. Anything that isn't the blah, Mads Mikkelsen is bad music is the most generic possible music. It's like wallpaper. This whole movie is nothing. Just nothing. So, I give it a 3, maybe a 2. I really disliked it. Again, I love Daisy Ridley. Oh, and the movie looks good, and the cast is good too. But I love Daisy Ridley, so just want to put my cards out there.